from Renaissance-style chateaux, grand country estates, architectural glass masterpieces.
These are the remarkable homes
Simply breathtaking.
and magnificent landmarks
One day, my son, all this will be yours.
at the very heart of Britain's spectacular history.
I have never seen one like this.
Join me
I need to get there with all speed. Onwards, driver.
and a host of celebrities
Oh, crikey.
with a passion for the past
Kaboom! Wish me luck.
as we travel the length and breadth of the nation
It is between the walls.
and with unparalleled behind-the-scenes access.
From the highest heights
Now I'm through my blind panic.
to the deepest depths.
We'll uncover the secrets
Oh, my goodness.
still hidden within these breathtaking buildings.
These are the places that nobody else gets to see.
And explore the riches
How spectacular.
and treasures of one of our most loved institutions.
This is an amazing story. Come on, I want to know the end. I want to know the end.
Welcome to the secrets of the National Trust. Today, I'm in County Down, Northern Ireland, where hidden among this rolling countryside is an 18th century house of two halves. One side of the house is all classical grace. The other side, a dark, brooding Gothic fantasy, all reflecting the bitter family rift and tragedy that lies at the heart of this home.
Welcome to Castle Ward.
Home to the first Viscount Bangor, Bernard Ward and his wife Lady Anne, this imposing mansion is an attempt to settle their marital differences with an extravagant grand design.
And while this is a story of split personalities, this house also bears witness to lunacy, attempted murder, groundbreaking microscopic science, and tragedy.
By unearthing dark family secrets,
A lunatic.
Indeed, yes.
They didn't mince words, did they?
No, they did not.
uncovering murderous plots,
Oh, Sir Robert's the wicked brother.
and discovering tragedy,
I can't believe the luck or the ill luck of this place.
I'll reveal how Castle Ward was almost destroyed by its turbulent past.
He keeps bumping off the wrong people.
Also tonight, Gloria Hunniford steals a peek at more of Castle Ward's mysteries
Whoa, a secret door.
and discovers some of the family's dark secrets.
She hated her husband so much. I mean, I think he got what he wanted, which was the house, and then she could go hang.
Actor and presenter Nina Wadia gets up close and personal with some endangered wildlife.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
And winter may have gone, but Castle Ward remains the dramatic setting for Winterfell in the smash hit series Game of Thrones. Historian Susanna Lipscomb is heading to the seat of the North.
You're natural.
The compelling story of Castle Ward and its bitter divisions starts with the house itself. On one side, a facade of elegant classical design, while on the other, it's a Gothic masterpiece.
I'm only just approaching Castle Ward, but already I'm fascinated. I can't understand what motivated Viscount Bangor and Lady Anne to build two contrasting sides to the same house.
To help me get to the bottom of this marital mystery, I'm meeting architectural historian Tracy Fahey.
This is just a classical mansion, isn't it, really, of its time?
This is really neat in the way
Yeah.
it's kind of presented.
With its beautiful Palladian front, including a mini temple facade, intricate pediment and rooftop urns, everything is perfectly calm on the classical side of the house.
Whose side is this, then?
So this is Bernard Ward's side of the house. Now, Bernard was an MP. He'd been created Viscount Bangor. So, to celebrate the achievement, he and his wife, Lady Anne, decided to build this wonderful house. And he was a big fan of the classical style.
So this is his side. We are looking at a classical
this is
18th
all
century
Bernard Ward.
Palladian-fronted house. He'd clearly done well for himself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the great century of big house building in Ireland, and it's all about demonstrating affluence and power.
Shall we go around the back?
Come with me.
Right.
Bernard Ward married Lady Anne McGill in 1747, and she brought a £10,000 dowry with her to the estate. A good job too, as a house with two faces doesn't come cheap, with some estimates suggesting it cost £40,000. That's about 7 million in today's money.
And here we are.
This is a joke. It's not the same building. It's like coming backstage in Hollywood, and this is another set altogether.
Oh, this house just doesn't know what it wants to be, because the other side, pure classical. This is a Gothic fantasy.
Yeah. So this is the wife's side, then, presumably?
This is Lady Anne's side. Now, she would have been a great devotee of the Gothic, which at the time was all the rage in terms of literature and architecture.
It has its own beauty with these pointy windows, pinnacles on the top. It shrieks Gothic, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So Viscount Bangor is desperate to show the fact that he's arrived with his classical Palladian front. Lady Bangor, on the other hand, she's getting all with the fashion of the time and doing the Gothic. This must have led to great tension between the two.
Absolutely. Architectural disagreement leads to interior design disagreement.
Come on.
Castle Ward's night and day style continues inside, where two very different visions of interior decoration collide. Lady Anne's Gothic style, with its dark wood and arched features, is a dramatic contrast to Bernard's clean classical elegance.
So this is the classical side of the house here.
Absolutely. This is Viscount Bangor's side, so the whole classical element is emphasised by these pillars here, which are Doric, which is the Greek masculine order.
I love the plasterwork and the musical instruments up there either side of the fireplace.
They are remarkable, but one reason why they're really remarkable is if you look at the violins over there, they were actually just dipped in stucco.
So it's a real violin, dipped in blood.
I wouldn't try to play it.
No, but instead of as the Italians would do and actually model the whole thing, the Irish craftsmen, let's get a real one, dip it in the blood, stick it on the
You have
wall.
to remember, of course, there were penalty clauses at that time, so if you didn't finish your scheme on time, you were liable to pay back some money.
So this is very much Bernard Viscount Bangor's side of the house. What about Lady Anne?
Let me take you to the Gothic heart of the house, Lady Anne's boudoir.
How can I refuse a boudoir?
And it's a boudoir like no other, with its detailed plasterwork dripping down the walls.
This is astonishing. It's like being inside a wedding cake.
The poet John Betjeman, when he came here, said that standing in the middle of this room was rather like standing under a cow.
I rather see what he means, but it's a very elegant cow. It's absolutely beautiful and very, very feminine.
So unlike the classical side, which is quite stark, it's a riot of kind of Gothic femininity.
You can't help but think their tastes were so diametrically opposed. How could they possibly get on in life? Did they live happily ever after?
No, they did not. The building of the house commenced in 1761. By the time it was completed, Lady Anne had left her husband. It appears that Viscount Bangor, for all his kind of stern classical taste, was rather profuse in his affections, shall we say.
Oh, it's a very diplomatic way of putting it.
Yeah. So in 1767, she actually leaves this house.
So where does she end up?
She moves to Bath, where she lives out the rest of her days, and it would have been quite the scandal at the time.
So as far as Bernard and Anne were concerned, opposites did not attract.
I'm afraid not. I think Castle Ward's really a case in point.
To get the scoop on the family feuding, I'm meeting someone who knows the dramatic story inside out. The National Trust's Andrea Hutton.
Oh, so where are we now?
We're now in the saloon on the Gothic side of the house, the living room of its day.
Right. So this is Bernard.
It is indeed, yes, and he's clutching in his hand the plans of the classical side of the house.
Making his point again.
Absolutely.
So what happens when Anne is up and gone?
She took with her youngest child, leaving the rest of the children here at Castlewood with their father. He's got Nicholas, his eldest son, and then they've got Edward and Robert.
So, what happens now? He lives here with his sons. How much longer does he live?
Well, he was made Viscount Bangor in 1781. However, he passed away 3 months after he got that title.
So, presumably then, this all passes to Nicholas, the eldest son?
Well, not quite. It was a bit more complicated than that, and we actually have the will here today to have a look at it.
Oh, right.
With Bernard dead and the inheritance far from straightforward, his 3 sons, Nicholas, Edward and Robert, were left to fight it out for the family silver.
Nothing at Castlewood is straightforward.
Oh, absolutely not.
These rarely seen family documents may explain why, as they contain a dark secret which was to cast a long shadow over Castlewood for many years to come.
Lord Bangor's will, 1781. In the name of God, amen, I, Bernard, Lord Baron Bangor of Castlewood in the County Down, do make and publish this my last will and testament.
It's exciting, isn't it? This is the first time I've actually got to see it myself.
Oh, this is to Nicholas, the eldest son, the lands demesnes of Castlewood with several other lands limited to the use of my eldest son, Nicholas Ward, for the term of his natural life. So he's leaving him the house and the title,
Yes.
but nothing else.
No, and there is a reason behind it. Bernard was quite a shrewd man, and if you look at this document, you'll find out why it was a bit more complicated.
In the matter of the Right Honourable Nicholas Lord Viscount Bangor, a lunatic.
Indeed, yes, absolutely.
They didn't mince words, did they?
No, they did not.
Lunatic is a big term. What could it have been, do we know?
Well, we don't actually know, because unfortunately lunatic was an umbrella term for any mental illness, so it could have been anything from depression right through to even schizophrenia.
Oh, just a bit eccentric.
Absolutely.
Like most lords. Sorry. Wow. It grabs your heart.
It does. As he is deemed a lunatic, he wasn't allowed to look after the family finances. He wasn't allowed to even get married in case he passed on that lunacy to his children. So he had to rely on his younger brothers to do that for him. Edward was given the task of looking after Nicholas physically, and Robert was given the task of looking after the family finances. Edward was quite a kind gentleman. He looked after Nicholas, making sure he was getting the best doctors, being fed, being clothed. That couldn't really be said for Robert. He really coveted the title and Castlewood itself.
Oh, so we now have a severe case of sibling rivalry between Nicholas, Edward and Robert.
Absolutely. Robert didn't really want to give a lot of money to looking after his elder brother.
So Robert's the wicked brother.
Oh, indeed.
This is amazing, isn't it? Bernard, the father, Viscount Bangor, only 3 months, has died. And the mother, she's run off. Nicholas, the eldest son, is certified as a lunatic. Edward, the nice brother, is looking after him and wanting money from Robert, who holds the purse strings, who doesn't want him to have any and wants a house and the title for himself. No wonder we're in here, because it's a Gothic horror story, this, isn't it?
It is indeed.
A horror story sparked by lover of all things Gothic, Lady Anne, who abandoned her sons when she left Northern Ireland for a new life. To find out more about this formidable lady and her influence on this extraordinary house, Gloria Hunniford is meeting family members who have unique insights into Castlewood's checkered history and feuding past.
Lord and Lady Bangor are direct descendants of the Ward family, and of course their relatives have lived here for centuries. But what I'm looking forward to is finding out a little bit more about the family, and who knows, maybe some secrets about their ancestors. Lord and Lady Bangor holiday here every summer, and I'm meeting them in their private apartment to get an exclusive insight into Lady Anne's time at Castlewood.
Oh, how do you do?
Lady Bangor, how are you? I'm Gloria. Hi, very nice to meet you. Lord Bangor, how are you?
How do you do?
Very
Miss
good.
Hunniford?
It's so lovely to be here. I used to come here a lot when I was younger.
Did you?
But I've never been in the inner sanctum. But it's a very special house, though, isn't it?
Wonderful. We come every August.
This is our 40th year running. We adore it here.
I feel it ages better than we do, actually.
Yes.
Lord and Lady Bangor have a prized possession to show me. It's Lady Anne's diary from the 18th century, which might hold some clues into the history of the family's infighting.
Here it is in its case.
And does it contain a lot of the history of the house?
No, it contains an awful lot of her gripes.
Most of the diary she wrote after she left Castle Ward.
She hated her husband so much that she went to Dublin and then back to Bath, which is where she came from. And this was found in Bristol, so it's not very far away.
And what does she say then about her husband or the house?
Well, she likes the house, yes, but she doesn't like her husband.
At all?
Not at all. I mean, I'm just quoting from some note I took. I fancy it is better to be some men's dog or horse than the wife of Lord Bangor.
Oh, she didn't like him, did she?
No. She didn't. Lord Bangor made me contemptible in the eye of my relations. Then they and he enjoined to make me contemptible in the eyes of the world.
Apart from the fact that she hated her husband, does she say why she hated being here so much?
I think he was very boorish towards her. I don't think he treated her well. I mean, I think he got what he wanted, which was the house, and then she could go hang.
You see, all his relations used to come here and stay for weeks. I think they're all unkind to her, and laughed at her and made her feel bad.
So this must have been quite a revelation then, as to how much she hated the Wards.
Yeah. She hated them all except for her eldest son.
So given how unhappy her marriage was, it's no wonder that Lady Anne only lasted 5 years at Castle Ward. But I'm keen to find out more about the house itself, and I'm heading to the library to see if it hides more family secrets. Whoa. Secret door?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever come into a room through a secret door. That's fabulous. And are there very important books in this room?
Yes, there are. There are one or two. I'll show you. I'll show you something which is particularly nice, which is called Vitruvius Britannicus.
Published in the 18th century, Vitruvius Britannicus contains the architectural work, engravings and drawings of well-known British architects, and was in fact a catalogue from which the landed gentry picked the designs for their grand houses.
Wonderful plates. See all this, you see?
And do you think that possibly Castle Ward was taken from one of these books?
Yeah. We think it's taken from this book.
With no known architect for Castle Ward, the family believed the eclectic designs were taken from this 5-volume work, one of the many rare and valuable publications in this library. So, presumably these books are exceptionally valuable.
They're quite valuable. I mean, that's probably worth about £20,000.
What, a collection of books there?
There's 5. The Vitruvius Britannicus.
So who then would have sold this library to the National Trust?
Oh, my father did. And everything else in the house.
And do we know how much the library was sold for?
We think it's about between £800 and £880.
The whole library, all of this?
He wanted some ready money, but, you know, he should have got a bit more.
Now, they may have been hearing stories of infidelity, lunacy, and bitter family feuding, but little do the visitors realise that behind an unassuming door in Castle Ward, the direct descendants of all that chaos might be having afternoon tea. Well, as you know, every Irish woman loves a cup of tea, so Lord Bangor, would you do the honours of pouring? Marvellous.
Thank you. That's lovely, darling. Thank you.
Sitting on the shores of Strangford Lough, Castle Ward might be a haven of peace, but back in the 18th century, it was anything but. With scheming Robert attempting to cheat his lunatic brother Nicholas out of his inheritance. I'm back with Andrea at the front staircase to learn how this bitter battle of the brothers spiralled out of control.
Have you brought me to the foot of the stairs?
Absolutely. Well, this is the scene of quite a heinous crime, a attempted murder.
What? It goes from bad to worse at Castle Ward.
Absolutely. Robert, remember, he wanted to become Viscount Bangor. He was doing all
He's
the
the youngest brother.
He's the youngest
the one
brother.
in charge of the purse strings.
Absolutely. But he had 2 older brothers, and accidents were happening, and this was the scene of an attempt on Nicholas's life.
So Robert made an attempt on Nicholas's life? How?
Well, he loosened the banister, hoping that Nicholas would lean over it and possibly fall to his death.
What, up there?
Absolutely, yes.
Did he succeed?
Unfortunately for Robert, and unfortunately for Nicholas, no. It was a footman that fell to their death instead. It was not,
Shock
not
upon
a
shock in this
happy
play.
family.
So, it failed completely?
Yes, but that wasn't his only attempt at extinguishing his brother's life.
Tell me more.
One of the so-called remedies of insanity was fresh air. So every day, Nicholas was bundled up and taken on a carriage ride around the estate. Robert had the interior of Nicholas's carriage soaked and left outside one particularly cold winter. He was bundled up in a frozen carriage and taken out on his daily trip. Now, the story goes that Nicholas survived that attempt. However, his coachman caught pneumonia and passed away.
He keeps bumping off the wrong people.
Absolutely. And that's not all. Another attempt was on one of Nicholas's favourite walks around the estate. He left manhole covers open, hoping that he'd fall down and maybe break a leg, break a neck, something along those lines.
So, what happens to Nicholas in the end?
Well, actually, he survives all of his brother's attempts on his life, and he died at the ripe old age of 77.
Good for you, Nicholas.
Absolutely.
Poor footman. But in the 19th century, Castlereagh would become renowned for the pioneering scientific work of the wife of the 5th Viscount Bangor.
The groundbreaking work of Mary Ward would restore the scandalised reputation of the family. So I'm back with the Trust's Andrea Hutton, who's taking me into a hidden storeroom to show me some of Mary's rarely seen treasures.
I love National Trust storerooms. They're treasure troves, aren't they? Old furniture. What have we got here?
Well, this is a collection of items belonging to Mary Ward. She was a scientist during the Victorian period, which was not an occupation that young ladies were encouraged to be.
You know, you look at what she's wearing there. It must have been very difficult to do experiments wearing yards of black bombazine that got in the way.
Absolutely. And she collected her own specimens as well, so you can imagine going out around the fields trying to collect her specimens in that outfit.
So, what's under here?
Well, here we've got her microscope.
That's a good one.
It is
top
indeed.
of the range there.
It was bought for her by her parents, so they encouraged her scientific pursuits.
This wasn't just a dilettante, a dabbler. She was a scientist and applied herself.
Oh, absolutely. She was one of the first 3 ladies to be put onto the mailing list of the Royal Astronomical Society, Queen Victoria being one of the other ladies.
She's in very good company.
Absolutely, indeed she was.
And are these her microscope slides here?
Indeed, yes. She studied entomology, and she would have gone out and collected her own specimens and then created these slides in order to be able to see under the microscope.
She's mounted, there's a little tiny beetle there, mounted beautifully. So what sort of use did she put this knowledge to?
Well, she wrote books of her own. She wrote one on microscopes and one on telescopes, and we actually have the one on the microscope here.
She's a wonderful draftswoman. Look at that.
She is. Her art was very sought after. Her male peers would ask her for the drawings for their publications.
Beautifully intricate drawings
yes,
in here.
Yes, absolutely. She had difficulty finding a publisher to publish her book, so she ended up having to publish it herself.
Why was she never able to get published?
Well, she was a lady, and ladies in the scientific community were very few and far between. She was able eventually to get a book published, a book called The Wonders of the World, and it was such a popular reference book within the Victorian period that people of all walks of life were able to pursue their love of science.
So she published her own book, she was doing her own scientific research, she was doing drawings for male scientists' books. She's a great mover and shaker in her day, isn't she?
She is, absolutely. She's a great inspiration.
What became of her in the end?
Well, unfortunately, Mary met a tragic end. She is recorded as the first fatality in a road traffic accident.
No.
Absolutely.
I can't believe the luck or the ill luck of this place.
Indeed. Well, it's even more remarkable in that it happened in 1869, which is actually officially before cars were invented. Her cousin had a steam-powered horseless carriage, which she had gone down to have a little go on. Unfortunately, they had not invented the seatbelt, and going round a particularly bendy bend, well, she fell out. And that's how poor Mary met her end.
There's something about this place, you know. I think it's lovely, but are you sure you're safe working here?
Oh, who knows?
Be very careful. Dear Mary, what would you achieve if you hadn't gone away in that motor car? Oh, dear.
Mary was passionate about nature and she loved the landscape here. Her exploration of the natural world made her an inspirational woman. And at the nearby Murloch National Nature Reserve, the Trust are continuing that great work. Actor and presenter Nina Wadia is visiting to uncover the area's environmental and historic importance.
Stretching out between the beautiful Dundrum Bay and the imposing Mourne Mountains, these sand dunes are an impressive 6,000 years old. And apart from being visually stunning, they provide an important habitat for hundreds of species of wildflower and birds, mammals and insects. Truly a wildlife lover's paradise.
As well as their environmental significance, these dunes are also important for the key role they played in a turning point in 20th century history.
Hi, I'm Nina.
I'm meeting lead ranger Patrick Lynch to find out more.
I understand this land was also used during World War II?
Yes, it was used by the RAF and also by the American forces. General Eisenhower actually visited here. They did use it as training for the Normandy landings because Murloch Beach is very similar to the beaches in Normandy. The Americans would have used their tanks across the dunes. From old photographs, we can see that there was a lot more open dunes, so a lot sandier.
Over the intervening decades, the dunes have become increasingly overrun by vegetation, which is threatening the delicate ecosystems and wildlife habitats.
One of the challenges is managing the encroaching scrub, cutting that and removing that to protect this really important dune heath that we have here.
The rangers and an army of volunteers are constantly working hard to sustain the environment and to protect it from invading species.
One such species is gorse, which is encroaching on the dune heath and destroying the habitat for butterflies, ground nesting birds and other creatures. Chloe Brooks is a volunteer ranger here, and she is putting me to work.
This, I assume, does take up a lot of time when you do it?
Yeah, so the burning season is from the 1st of September until March. We have to remove 3 hectares of gorse, so it does take up, you know, most of that time.
Chloe, you have to show me how to use this.
Yeah, we'll cut the gorse down to about a 3-inch stump, which is then treated with chemicals so there can't be any regrowth.
Let me get in there. Oh, that was already broken.
Perfect. If you grab the end of that,
Right.
and then drag it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay!
Perfect. Easy.
The heat is truly tremendous here. Well, I congratulate you. It is hard work.
But it's important work, as the dune heath habitat is home to 740 species of moths and butterflies, including the marsh fritillary, a butterfly which would have been widespread in Britain in Mary Ward's day, but is now an endangered species.
Is there any chance that we'll get to see some endangered butterflies today?
Well, they're not actually in flight at the moment, but we might have a chance to find some of their caterpillars.
No.
Patrick introduces me to ranger and butterfly expert Ryan Mitchell, so we can hunt for the butterflies' cocoons on the dunes.
So, Ryan, what exactly am I looking for?
Well, basically, it looks like a big spider web, but much closer to the ground.
Right.
And they'll be on the bottom of this purple flower called
Okay.
Devil's Spit scabious.
Right.
So they feed on the leaves. Oh, I found one.
Ah. Oh, my word.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Oh, they're moving in there. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
They come in large communities like this, up to and over 100. They form these silk webs to protect themselves from predators and the weather.
Yeah.
And it keeps like a warm, nice microclimate for them to huddle in.
Wow, that is quite a find.
I've seen some amazing things here today, from the spider-like webs to the cosy cocoons, and I'm sure Mary Ward would have been in her element amongst the spectacular and important landscape.
And if I look as though I have been dragged backwards through a hedge, it's probably because I have. But it's been worth it. Hopefully we have managed to maintain the lovely fauna and flora of this beautiful environment for another year.
In the majestic Irish countryside sits the formidable Castle Ward, a double-sided house which aimed to settle a husband and wife's architectural dispute, but which also saw lunacy and a murderous case of sibling rivalry.
I've been hearing about the dysfunctional Ward family who schemed and plotted against each other for years. With such Machiavellian intrigue that's almost stranger than fiction, this story could easily have been lifted from a hit TV drama. So it seems only fitting that Castle Ward doubles as a key location for Game of Thrones. Historian Susanna Lipscomb is also here in County Down to get some insider know-how on a key part of the production.
For as long as wars have been waged, both in real life and on the screen, blacksmiths have been forging swords. I'm heading inside to get a sense of the process and see the traditional skills that have been passed on over the years.
My guide is Stephen Murphy, a local blacksmith and the Game of Thrones armourer.
Look at this display you've got here. Wow.
It's just various different blades I've made.
Do you know what? I would love to see you making one of these. Could we do something like that?
Yes, of course.
Using traditional centuries-old methods, Stephen makes a sword by stacking strips of steel together and heating them.
I want to heat it up to white heat.
By repeatedly layering and hammering the metal, the sword slowly begins to emerge.
The next stage would be to hand work the blade, and that's something we can have a go at now.
OK, let's give it a go.
The heat is intense, but once the metal is out of the fire, it cools quickly, leaving only a few seconds to work the blade.
So the problem is you need precision and speed. Very satisfying, isn't it? Ooh, look at that.
After days of heating and hammering the sword into shape, the intricate work of adding the finer detail can begin. The blade is carefully ground, etched and polished, transforming it into a work of art. So it's not surprising it takes 12 years for someone to become as skilled as Stephen.
I had no idea that making a sword took so long and involved so many processes. It's a huge labour of love.
It is.
Now that I know how to make a sword, I think it's time to find someone who could teach me how to use one. And what better location for sword fighting than here at Audley's Field, part of the grounds at Castle Ward, and another location that Game of Thrones chose for filming.
I'm here for a spot of swordsmanship with weapons specialist Mark Davis. But I don't get to use one of Stephen's swords as I'm a novice, so I have to start my tuition with a wooden one.
So your arm's going to start to go up. Turn till your fingernails come towards you. Sword, sword, straighten body. You're natural.
OK.
I'm going to block the blade here. Sword, 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 body. There you go. Keep your head up as well. Sword, 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 body. There you go. Excellent. You're a born killer.
Think I could have a go with the steel?
OK, let's do that.
Now I'm using the real thing. Let's hope I've got what it takes.
It's exactly the same movement. Don't worry, you have steel in your hand. Excellent. Project the weapon. Sword, 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 body. Good.
OK, I'm starting to get the hang of this now. Think maybe they need another character at Winterfell?
Definitely.
Alan, I hope you're as ready as I am. Because I hear that winter is coming.
Luckily, I'm safe and sound in the gardens, which were redesigned by Bernard Viscount Bangor and Lady Anne when they started building Castle Ward in 1761. And their tastes clashed just as much out on the estate as they did inside the house. To learn more, I'm taking a stroll with Head Ranger Paul Livingston and his dog Toby.
I think Toby's in his element walking here every day.
He has a fantastic time, Alan.
Do you lose him? I mean, let him off. You
On
never see
numerous
him.
occasions, unfortunately.
And I'm discovering more about the Trust's plans to restore the estate to its former 18th century glory.
This is the most beautiful spot. This great canal of water in the bottom and the temple right up the top there.
Yep.
Tell me about Temple Water. What
Temple
is it?
Water, it's a man-made landscape, basically, Alan. The whole theory behind the Temple Water was to power the sawmill, the corn mill, so it's all industrial.
Oh, so it's beautiful to look at, but it has a practical
It has a
purpose.
practical purpose, and that was something that underlies the whole planting scheme. Everything you see in front of you was all designed.
Beautiful and functional, the magnificent man-made water feature was built by Bernard's parents to power the estate's saw and corn mills. And on the hill above it sits a classical Palladian folly that would have been right up Bernard's street. Today, it's one of the largest ornamental garden features to have survived from the 1700s.
When I look at a landscape like this and think there were no JCBs, there were no diggers in those days, there were men and there were spades and there were wheelbarrows.
Wheelbarrows not in the way we think of them now. They
No.
were probably wooden ones, Alan, which
Carts.
a workforce then probably constituted 20, 30 men.
Any Gothic garden features then? What can I say?
We had the grotto, Alan, which sat below the temple. Unfortunately, there's no evidence of it now today, but we do know exactly where it was.
So there was a Gothic grotto?
There was.
The grotto is no more, but one feature that may have met with Lady Anne's approval is still intact. It's Castle Ward's ice house. They were all the rage back then, and no grand estate would have been without one. The ice they stored was used in the kitchens to preserve perishable food.
What a lovely domed roof. Look at
In it,
that.
yes,
That's
indeed.
glorious.
We do have some restoration work to do on it. Quite deep inside, Alan, if you have a look.
Right. Whoa!
Quite deep.
An enormous round pit.
That's
Can you hear? And a hole in the top of the
Hole in the top,
dome.
on the side.
So they drop the ice
Exactly.
in. So they would wait until colder winters than we seem to get now.
Oh, yeah.
Great crust of ice on the top.
Probably talking roughly maybe a foot thick of ice in those days.
So breaking that up then with picks and whatnot.
Probably picks, and say they used to use, there was ice saws as well. So
Yeah.
you drill your hole, put your saw in, and
Oh, a bit like the Eskimos used to do in
Yes.
comic books when you were a boy. A little
but
hole.
you tried not to stand on the bit you were cutting. You didn't want to sort of go down in, you know.
There's a lot of activity going on
There
over
is indeed, Alan.
Shall we go and help? See what
Surely,
they're doing?
yeah.
A team of horticultural volunteers is cutting back the undergrowth to help restore the estate to how it would have been in Viscount Bangor and Lady Anne's day.
So, Adrian, you in charge of all this?
Well, I wouldn't say in charge, but I'm
Trying to keep
helping
order.
out. Yes, helping out.
Trying to get everything in the
Yes,
right place. It's a bit of a task, isn't it?
It is. A bit of a jungle, but we're getting there slowly but surely. But
Can you see a difference?
You can already. Once you get one or two trees drop, it makes a difference.
Looking up every now and again and saying, yes, we are improving. It is making a difference, although it seems absolutely massive.
Well, slowly, because when you look ahead, how far we'll have to go, but the best thing to do is just one step at a time, one tree at a time.
But
Yeah.
then when you look at some of these enormous standard oaks that you can now see, which you wouldn't be able to see before, that must be quite rewarding.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see. It's nice to see once it's cleared away.
So how long is it going to take you to get this 18th century path restored?
Well, roughly about 3 years. That's what we're estimating.
OK, I'll come back in 4. But thank goodness you've got 21st century tools to do it with.
Yes,
rather
can't
than-
wait. That's more my
Go
thing.
on.
Yes,
You
thanks very
get
much.
on.
All right,
OK.
okay, thanks.
Castle Ward is a powerful mix of beauty and intrigue. Played out across the centuries, the Ward family story is a page-turning suspense thriller which unfolds against the backdrop of this magnificent house and its sweeping estate.
There are two sides to Castle Ward. There's the pioneering science, the impressive landscape, and the kindly middle brother, Edward. But then there's the warring husband and wife, lunacy, murder, attempted murder, and tragedy.
And these remarkable events can be divided neatly between the house's two sides, the beautiful classical and the striking Gothic.
In 1952, the mansion was handed to the National Trust, and with it, the responsibility for its tumultuous past.